Hey everybody, welcome back. Craig Schaup here with George Thomas, our film critic from the Akron Beacon Journal. George is here, and he has the power. George, you are a day removed from seeing the latest in the He-Man series, the Masters of the Universe. I grew up on He-Man. Obviously, I had a cat when I was growing up named Cringer, of course, the battle cat of He-Man, Prince Adam. So I'm very excited about this latest iteration. Now, I'm obviously not a big fan of the 1987 Dolph Lundgren movie, but still I grew up on the toys and I grew up on the cartoons, so still excited about the nostalgia that this brings. And based on your review that people can read or watch on thebeaconjournal.com, you had some nice things to say about this campy 1980s style sci-fi.
I did, and everybody should be afraid.
No, never.
You mentioned that you remember it. It's in your wheelhouse because at the height of its quote unquote power, I was a senior in high school, so I was doing other things than watching He-Man, and I won't go into too much detail. Saturday, what was it? It was a daily afternoon cartoon. So I was probably working. And so I wasn't that big into it. Now, I'd seen the 87 film adaptation. It was okay. I was 22. Yeah, 22. And just as a way, Dolph Lundgren makes a cameo. So we can dispense with that. But I was pleasantly surprised that, I said it in my lead. My wife asked point blank, was the cartoon this pathetic? And I replied, yeah. I'm like, but it was fun. Because I did see a handful of episodes and I enjoyed them.
Yeah.
And that's what the movie is like. It's like kind of you know what you're in for.
Right.
Now, what I do appreciate about the new adaptation are two things. Travis Knight knows what he wants to do with the property, and he makes it's probably too long. It's a 2 hour and 20-minute cartoon.
Yeah.
I have no problem with that because those 2 hours and 20 minutes pretty much fly. He has a reverence for the material. He pokes fun of it, but it's also an homage to that original series, and he pulls it off. You know what I mean? I also like the fact that he flipped this version on its head from the 1987 version. Have you seen that? Have you seen that? If you recall, most of the action took place on Earth.
Yeah.
And that was hinky at best. Right. This version, Earth is in the plot for about 20 minutes because Prince Adam, He-Man as it were, was exiled there by, we won't say who, I don't want to give away too much, but he's exiled as a child, loses the Sword of Power, which is meant to get him back to Eternia, his home world.
Yep.
And he spends 15 years looking for it. Now, in the age of the internet, in the age of geeks and nerds and whatever, that offers some of the best commentary. Travis Knight and his team of script writers, there are like 4 or 5 of them, so I'm not going to go into that. And an opportunity to make some observations about nerd culture. They're funny. It's enjoyable being a nerd myself, but the movie really takes off when it gets back to Eternia. And, he remembers all these people, can't get their names right to save his life. He's been away for 15 years and he was a kid. But he comes back to an Eternia that's been ruled by Skeletor all this time. It's basically Eternia the Hood, or whatever you want to call it. And And those people he remembered and looked up to are basically tamed for the most part by Skeletor. There is a rebellion. They're trying to run it, and they're not so successful. And he returns to Eternia claiming to be Prince Adam. They're skeptical, blah, 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 blah. What's interesting is what Knight does with the character's friendships. Man at War, played by Idris Elba, is now a struggling, I don't want to call him alcoholic, but he enjoys the drink.
Right.
And he's not the man at war who tried to train young Adam. They address issues like Teela being hot and him being attracted to stuff that couldn't be dealt with in the cartoon, obviously. And, all those characters are there. Cringe is there when is it cringe or cringy? Cringy? Battle Cat?
Yeah, Cringer.
He's there when it met, or she. The voice is very ambiguous. Is there when it matters most. But, it gives Idris Elba and Jared Leto, who portrays Skeletor, the opportunity to just camp it up and have some fun. And that's what I appreciated about it. The other thing is that as much as it's an homage to 80s sci-fi and how it wasn't extremely serious in that era, save, let's call it 2010 made an effort that I recall.
Yeah.
There was E.T., if I'm not mistaken, that was in that realm, but there was a dearth of it. Now, he pays homage to the camp by cribbing from Flash Gordon.
Yeah.
You ever see that movie?
I did, yeah.
And he cribs big time, from the production design to the overall look and the colors he uses. But more importantly, there's that late 70s, 80s, early 80s guitar riff soundtrack that he uses. Now, what does that soundtrack remind you of? Queen. He wisely, for some of the soundtrack, some of the score, turns to Brian May.
Okay.
And it gets even deeper when he uses Queen's Princes of the Universe in one key scene. So he ties this all together. It's a bit of a messy affair. And it's fun. Like I say, it flies by. I enjoyed it against my better judgment. Because some might want to revoke my critics card or whatever it is over that. I gave it a solid B-. Go just to have fun.
Yeah. It seems like tonally it finds its right for the most part. It seems like not taking itself too seriously. It could have tried to play it straight and be serious and maybe present it in a different way. But He-Man's probably not meant for that in the film world.
No.
And it sounds like, and you're right, Travis Knight, he directed Bumblebee many years ago now, that, you can tell that he has sort of this affinity for that era of toys, that era of cartoons, just, being maybe growing up on that and really being impacted by it. So, it's good that there's a bit of that nostalgia while being able to poke fun at what you're doing and know that what you're doing is a little bit odd and over the top in general. And it sounds like, they could have easily not gone with some of the weird characters that inhabited Eternia, but they didn't. They kind of went all in on every character that you can recall from the He-Man and the Masters of the Universe cartoons and, various other properties. So, it's embracing that weird thing that He-Man kind of is.
Well, here's a question for you. Did you see Flash Gordon? Have you seen that?
Yeah, I have.
Flash Gordon, that's another way he embraces Flash Gordon. Flash Gordon embraced the weird.
Yeah.
It really did. So, you know, bless him.
Yeah.
He hopefully the film does some business because even if you're in that your generation and you have kids you want to share this property with, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, it's right now. It's not tracking so hot with the box office numbers, but you never know. You never know what'll happen with it. But
What's
I
it
do hope
tracking?
that I think it was like 27 to 35 million, which is not good. But
That's bad for the first weekend of June.
yeah, especially for a $170-ish million production budget. So yeah, probably not going to look very good domestically. I guess the hope is that maybe there's some play internationally with this, but it could be a one-off, or I
Oh,
think that Hollywood.
They
What's
set up
that?
the sequel. They
Yeah,
set up the sequel.
right. I think Hollywood just needs to understand that you gotta try to tamp down some of these budgets. Like, I know it's hard to sometimes, but we've seen Marvel movie after Marvel movie that has had a bloated $200 million budget, and the visual effects just don't look that great. You're not probably spending a ton of money on the cast here. I mean, really didn't even mention Nicholas Galitzin, who's He-Man. Obviously, Jared Leto and Idris Elba are very well-known commodities, but at the same time, there's got to be a way to kind of bring the budgets down so you can maybe get closer to that being a profitable film. I know Supergirl might face that dilemma later on in the month where it's not tracking super high right now, although it could. The pre-sales are going on right now, so they'll get a better idea after this week maybe. But I don't know, it just seems like if He-Man was made for 125 million, you're not thinking like, oh, it's got to make 500 million to score. It is an Amazon MGM property, which means it's going to go to Prime. Maybe they don't care if it's profitable in its theatrical run. You had the big profits coming from Project Hail Mary, so maybe they don't care and they just want to say we're going to run with a franchise because we have stupid money to do so.
See, and that was curious to me because they didn't have a screening locally.
Okay.
On a whim, I searched for an early access screening, and there was one on Wednesday, yesterday.
Okay.
So, and it's like, and I mentioned that to my local rep. It's like they screened the Jack Ryan film in theaters,
right?
But they're not screening this, and it's like perhaps they were afraid it was going to get savage. I think the last time I checked, it was tracking at 73% on Rotten Tomatoes, and
it's not bad. I mean, it's got a 53 on Metacritic. It's really not. I mean, it's divided, but that's kind of what you would expect from a movie like this. It's not like it's, rotten scored or a low Metacritic score. Like, it's really been pretty decent given what you would kind of expect, especially given what of the franchise itself and the 87 movie, and not a lot of love outside of maybe people my age who grew up on it. So it's really not trending that bad. So I'm kind of wondering why they didn't believe in it a little bit more.
Perhaps it's too quirky, because it's quirky as hell. And it's with its share of cliches. It's quirky as it is. It's got its share of cliches.
All right, well, going to a little bit more serious route. I know last week we were not on, but you did see Pressure, the new Brendan Fraser movie. This is the Eisenhower D-Day, tense 72 hours of strife in the war. What can you tell us about Pressure?
Meteorology has never seemed so sexy in cinema. That's the best way to put it.
Yes.
You mentioned Dwight D. Eisenhower. He's an ancillary character here.
Okay.
Ultimately, it's the story of two meteorologists. One British meteorologist who the British, for the most part, well, at least Winston Churchill, respects and trusts. Right. His name is James Stagg. And then there's a meteorologist who's been with Eisenhower through all of his campaigns through the war, named Irving Crick. Now, Eisenhower trusts Crick, but because Eisenhower trusts Churchill, Stagg is given command of the meteorology department that's tasked with predicting weather for D-Day, which was originally scheduled for June 4th or 5th.
Okay.
Okay. It's either or. We all know history tells us that it happened June 6th. And it's about the battle between Stagg and Crick as they can't come to terms on what the forecast is going to be. Fundamental question to you. Okay, Stagg has experience, is the expert in forecasting weather in Europe, whereas Crick is more experienced and trusted for predicting weather in the desert. Now, if you're invading the beaches of France on D-Day, who are you going to trust?
Probably not the desert meteorologist, yeah. But yeah, you know.
And that's the heart of the story as they fight back and forth over which forecast is right. And eventually Eisenhower tells them point blank, you guys have to come to a meeting of the minds about when we can do this. And, you know, Brendan Fraser continues his winning streak. You know, we live in a world now where George of the Jungle is playing a president. A movie I thoroughly enjoyed, by the way. But great performance. Andrew Scott as James Stagg, another great performance. You know, let's call him the stereotypical button-up Brit with a lot of depth and emotional nuance.
Yeah.
And, you know, Crick, as portrayed by Chris Messina, is the typical, in Europe, we'd be called vulgar Americans, loud, good time Charlie, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Tremendous cast, great performances, and I really enjoyed the fact that we were given something to chew on just ahead of this week. And
you know, I mean, we talked about it a little bit for the summer movie preview about it not kind of being a normal movie in the summertime release schedule.
Yeah, and The Invasion is never going to match anything like Saving Private Ryan.
Right.
But it's still pretty impressive.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting, you know, this is adapted from a stage play, isn't it? And it kind of seems like it makes a little bit of sense that way because it's talking about the weather and meteorology more than you would be maybe thinking about when you're talking wartime, you know, but it's kind of fascinating to think like that's probably something that people take into account before they implement some military strategy. I'm guessing it's probably got to be on their mind at least.
Yeah, well, apparently after the war, in talking to JFK, and I'm unverifiable, I found this on the internet, take it for what it's worth. Sure. JFK asked Eisenhower why they were successful at D-Day. And he told them we had better meteorologists. So there we go. Interesting tidbit.
Okay. Final score for Pressure.
I gave it a B+. Okay. I mean, some people think it's award worthy. I think maybe, but it's going to have to be a weak year award wise. So there we go.
Yeah. I would imagine if it was if it stood out in that way, I would think the studio would probably say, yeah, we could push it to the fall and, you know, probably not going to be a big box office, you know, success in the summer and even on Memorial Day weekend, you know, but yeah, it's a nice palate cleanser for a lot of these blockbusters that we're getting in this summertime release schedule.
For all we know, the individuals who decided to release this now, given the other reviews I've seen, are having regrets. So we'll see.
Yeah, probably. All right. Well, we have some streaming as well. As always, you always catch up on everything. We have The Burrows first, a new streaming series on Netflix. Tell us about this one.
And I'm still catching up because I was a little bit behind on this one. You know, this is from the Duffer Brothers. So what kind of influence? And it's alien supernatural related. shocker of all shockers. They didn't create the series, but
Yeah.
I'm sure they were attracted to it because of the subject matter. It's basically Stranger Things meets Cocoon.
Okay.
Do you remember Cocoon?
I do, yeah.
An underappreciated Ron Howard film that was a huge hit in the 80s that I saw in theaters. And it's about, and the weird part is I'm seeing people in movies today that I saw on the screen in the early 80s, because this starts Alfred Molina as a widower who's basically shipped off to a retirement community by his daughter. And the minute he gets there, he notices that things are kind of strange. He starts investigating, gets the other residents involved, and supernatural alien-like things ensue. And it's a pretty doggone good time, if we're being honest. Really good time. Cast includes Alfred Woodard. Who else?
I see Bill Pullman.
Yeah, Bill Pullman as president in Independence Day.
Yeah.
Just great cast, great performances. I enjoyed it immensely. And check it out on Netflix.
Okay. And then kind of wrapping up, maybe a streaming show that I never thought that I knew I wanted, which was Spider Noir. This is interesting because, a lot of people are big fans of the Spider-Verse animated movies, which are vividly creative and wonderfully drawn and animated, and always introduced us to some interesting spider characters, including Spider Noir. Now, Nicolas Cage is reprising that role here in the live action series. And what this is kind of unique, because this is a series that's both black and white and color.
Yeah.
Have you opted to watch one or the other, or both?
I only watched the color. I'm going to do a rewatch of the black and white.
Okay.
But even in color, the title says it all. It's noir. Even in color, they are the creators, or Uziel. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, so forgive me. Manages to craft an 8-part series that immerses itself and gives off that noir vibe.
Yeah. From
the dialogue to the performances to the overall situation, the plot. And it's really very enjoyable. I binged it over the course of 2 days.
Okay.
Didn't want to turn it off, which is always a good sign when I'm looking at something. If I can't turn it off, that's immediately getting a good grade for me. The best thing about it is we're getting how far back do you go with Nick Cage and his filmography?
I would say that my intrigue with him, I love him in Matchstick Men. I think he is fantastic in that. Obviously, well aware of his career as a whole, but Bad Lieutenant, he's fantastic. Port of Call, New Orleans, which was fantastic. Probably mid 90s and through, with like The Rock, for instance, Leaving Las Vegas.
Okay, I go back to freaking Valley Girls.
Yeah.
Moonstruck. Kiss of the Vampire. Now, early in his career, Nicolas Cage was known for having these tics in his performances.
Right.
He'd imbue his characters with certain tics. So Spider Noir is right in his wheelhouse for 2 reasons. He's always wanted to do the superhero thing. Always, yes. always. He tested for Superman. They used footage from that test in the adaptation of The Flash that flopped.
Right.
In the review, I now regret for it. But
you really loved that one. I think you gave it an A-, if I'm not mistaken, my friend. Yeah.
But they used the footage in that film for The Flash. And so he gets to do his superhero thing, but playing a man who has spider ticks, because he goes there. And I mean, he really goes there from being curled up to a ball. It's just a joy to watch him having fun. And it's all it is. The noirish elements are there. This could have very easily, dare I say, been a bogey film. Bogey. It really could.
It looks like it. It really looks like a nice Hollywood noir throwback.
And Brendan Gleeson is in it also, who is also great Irish character actor. Love generally everything he does. Now, see, what got me, did you ever watch Boardwalk Empire?
I didn't. I watched an episode or two, but never really the full run.
Okay. There was a character, a World War I vet in that film who had half his face, he looked like the Phantom of the Opera. Mr. Harrow was the character's name. He was portrayed by Jack Huston. And Jack Huston imbued that character with more humanity than any actor could probably ever give it. It's a performance I remember. I think Boardwalk Empire went off the air 10 years ago, if not more. At least, and I still remember it. He shows up as a version of the Sandman, and I was delighted to see him. And again, he finds the humanity in a character that probably shouldn't have it. It's just a great effort, and hopefully there's going to be another season.
Yeah, it's good to see the resurgence here I think the resurgence in terms of good projects for Nicolas Cage too. Obviously, he went on that run of I need paychecks and, made like 4 direct-to-video movies like every year. But it's good to see him really get back in and get good material and sink his teeth into something interesting too, because he's a great actor that always chews the scenery very well. So it's good to see Nicolas Cage getting into these better roles than that really serve his talents.
Yeah, and I'm glad he's out of trouble with the IRS.
Yeah.
So he can do these projects. Now he's done some interesting stuff in the past 5 to 7 years.
Yeah,
but nothing really very mainstream that will be consumed by a mainstream audience. And he's going to get the geeks with this one. I hope he finds a place with others. And hopefully he's offered some more intriguing stuff than what he's been getting.
Yeah, well, he's going to play John Madden later this year for Amazon for David O. Russell of all people, which seems like a very interesting bedfellows with David O. Russell, Christian Bale, and Nicolas Cage there in a John Madden biopic. But I mean, it's great to see him there. I mean, there's rumors that he might be in another season, or the latest season of True Detective. I've seen some rumors there. So I mean, this may be, obviously he's got, because he's Nicolas Cage, he's got like 8 projects in the pike right now because he's Nicolas Cage. But I'm excited to see where he continues to go, because he's still got the great acting chops, and he's always entertaining on the screen, no matter what he's really doing. So I'm excited for it.
Yeah. Check it.
Well, I know next week. Yeah. Anything else that you have? Anything that you've watched or caught up on or finished or binged now that we're sort of in the summer months and not a whole lot of new TV? Obviously at least from the cable standpoint. But anything that you've watched other than The Burrows and Spider Noir?
Nothing that I can talk about. Let's try that. I will say, if you enjoyed the 4 seasons on Netflix, it's back for season 2. Okay. The Deli Boys on Hulu is back for season 2. Other than that, I'm watching season 3 of House of Dragons.
Okay.
Cape Fear.
All right. Well, and I'm hoping next week, Disclosure Day. Are you going to be seeing Disclosure Day?
Monday. Yes, I am.
All right. Very exciting. Steven Spielberg back in the director's chair for sci-fi. Can't wait for that. Anything else for next week that you'll be able to talk about?
I'll talk about House of Dragons and Cape Fear, but I can talk about one thing I've seen.
Yeah.
Most of. I don't know how big of a music fan you are, but
I enjoy music. Yeah.
Well, I love that Billy Joel documentary.
Yes. Yep.
Was it earlier this year? No, it was last.
I think it was last year.
HBO has an Earth, Wind, and Fire documentary
that's coming out this month.
2 hours long. I'm old, so I started at like 9:30 the other night, and I didn't want to go to bed past 11, so I didn't watch the second hour. But based on the first hour, it's just a pure emotional banger because they made me remember, and it's produced by Questlove.
Okay.
The filmmakers made me remember why Earth, Wind and Fire was what it was, and it was due to the work of Maurice White, who died, if I'm not mistaken, of Parkinson's, like 15 years or so ago. So that's worth checking out, and that's just me based on the first hour.
Sure. Okay. All right. Well, as always, you can read everything that George writes at beaconjournal.com. You can watch his reviews there as well. You can watch his Masters of the Universe review and geek out over the nostalgia of 80s TV and toys. So as always, George, we appreciate your time, and we can't wait for Disclosure Day next week.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that one.